So my quixotic grandiose scheme is, as one of my reviewers put it, to restore poetry to poetry. I am fascinated with form and with how you can meld form with content in such a way that they support one another. Let me start with an example of a poem that does that. It's a villanelle, which is possibly the most difficult poetic form. How many people know what a villanelle is? 2 or 3, 4, 5? A villanelle is 19 lines of iambic pentameter coming in 3-line groups, rhyming ABA, 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 until you get to the end, when you have one extra A to round it off with a couplet. Okay? Now, that doesn't sound so hard, but you see lines 1 and 3 have to be repeated, specified, or substantially repeated at specified intervals. Which, again, that's not so hard. You know, repeating yourself, we all can do that. You know. But the trick is to make those repetitions significant, so that it doesn't sound forced. It sounds like those lines were just naturally going to be coming back at those spots anyway. And then the 2 repeater lines come together at the end to form the couplet. So, one of my students dared me to write a poem on the most difficult topic in the world in the most difficult form. I said, okay, sure, I'll try that. So, most difficult topic, most difficult form. I chose for a topic the hypostatic union. If you know anything about theology, the hypostatic union is a technical name for the way the divine and human natures of Christ are joined in one person. The 2 natures joined in one person. It's called the hypostatic union. And completely impossible to explain, but absolutely essential to Christian faith. Because otherwise Jesus is not qualified to be our Savior. So hypostatic union, one of the most difficult, surely one of the most difficult topics. I think it qualifies, most difficult topic, and for most difficult form, the villanelle. And as soon as I realized that was the topic in the form, I had the solution. And so, the easiest villanelle I ever wrote was on the most difficult topic, because I took one line to symbolize the human nature of Christ, the crying of the infant Son of Man. That's about as human as it gets. A baby crying. Doesn't sound very divine. Pretty helpless. Very human. And then the word set forth before the world began, alluding to John 1:1, that stands for the divine nature of Christ. And so, these 2 things keep weaving in and out through the poem until they come together as one couplet at the end. The form is what makes the difficult concept actually work. So, 1 week later, I gave Dan Moreau the poem, The Hypostatic Union. And the reason I'm starting with it is because it illustrates form and content working together to create an artistic unity that I hope sounds pretty arrogant, because I'm talking about my own poem. But if it's successful, which I'll leave to you to decide, what I'm trying to do anyway is to make the form and the content work together to create an artistic whole that's greater than the sum of its parts. And of course, only if you have a very demanding form, like the villanelle, or the Shakespearean sonnet, or the Italian sonnet, or the Spenserian sonnet, which are 4 of my very favorite forms, only if you have a very demanding form is that even possible. And that's what art is all about, making form and content go together in an interesting way. So here's the hypostatic union. See if you think it works. The Word set forth before the world began wrote out the mournful tune in minor key, the crying of the infant Son of Man. There was no way that they could understand how that small and helpless child could be the Word set forth before the world began. Joseph wondered at the tiny hand, the scrunched up face, the frail intensity of crying in the infant Son of Man. The angel host deployed and took its stand to sing out with celestial harmony the Word set forth before the world began. Mary marveled at the shepherd band who came to hear, while bowing awkwardly, the crying of the infant Son of Man. Yet it was in accordance with the plan articulated from eternity. The Word set forth before the world began was crying in the infant Son of Man. Yeah. Now, I have some pretensions to be a poet. I have some pretensions to be a theologian. I have advanced degrees in theology as well as in English. I've published in both fields, and if by some miracle I'm ever allowed to write a systematic theology, that's going to be the chapter on the hypostatic union. I can't do better than that, and I defy any